Yeah, okay, so now we are ready to go. So as I was mentioning, so after the class, the class of today, I'll start sharing first in our Discord a couple of links. That link, it will be a link to a Notion document, okay? Some of you know already this document, but it will be now a private document. In that private document, I'll start sharing there or making the upload of the recorded sessions, okay? So everybody will be feel always free to just jump into any session if you want to see the record or if you couldn't attend the class, okay? Yes, so other things I'll be saying a couple of minutes later, but also, so today I'll send you all another email. I hope I haven't spammed you already, but I'll send you another email, but now with multiple links. So with the links for our next classes, okay? So this Wednesday, next Friday, every Friday for the next 3 weeks, we will have feedback sessions, okay? So the goal over the next couple of weeks is for you to start to create content on Twitter and to start to understand Twitter, to make a couple of tweaks, but most of all, for you to also find your niche, at least to brainstorm what you think can be your niche and what can you write about. I know that finding our niche is most of the times one of the biggest pain points in our journeys as creators. And so that's also one of the topics that I want to help you during this journey over the next 3 weeks. And another thing that I have to share with you is that we will have guest speakers with us. And these guest speakers, we are talking about top creators, like people with good audiences and who have been creating content both on Twitter and other platforms for a while, for them to share their journey, pain points, things that you should take care of. But those sessions, I'm still pending on their, like the scheduling and all of that is not necessarily just on my side. So over the next couple of days, I'll start sharing some of those guest speaker sessions, okay? Some of them may happen in one of our sessions. Others may happen like in our feedback sessions. Others may have to be scheduled in another time, okay? But they will happen, and we will have 3 guest speakers here with us over the next couple of weeks, okay? So just to bring you here some structure, because I'm the type of person who needs some structure. So about the bootcamp, as I was mentioning, we will have 6 live sessions over the next couple of weeks in terms of classes, okay? So 2 classes each week, and 3 Q&As with top creators, and the feedback sessions every Friday, okay? And I am not counting with the feedback sessions, because the goal is for the feedback sessions to keep happening even after the bootcamp, okay? So what I want, like in 3 months, looking back, is for you to feel always free to just jump into a feedback session that you know will happen every Friday from now on. Okay, that's the goal. And all of you will have this community lifetime access. Okay, so this is, as you know, the first batch of this Twitter audience building live bootcamp. But our goal at Vinci, and I'll start explaining what is Vinci in a couple of minutes, but our goal is for you to be involved in a community of people who, just like you, want to build digital leverage, want to start to create content, build an audience, and then to monetize that audience, okay? So that's the type of community that we are building here, but more context about that in a couple of seconds. So also, some thoughts on how to get the most out of this bootcamp, okay? And for you to get the most out of this bootcamp is to get involved in our Discord server, okay? So there are no stupid questions. I've been exactly where you are not a long time ago. So I know some of the questions that you may have, some of the fears that you may have also. And so feel always free to just jump into the Discord. We have there, as you may know, and I will share in a couple of minutes, but in our Discord, we have a couple of rooms. Some of them are for the community. Okay, enable, yes, okay. So some of these rooms, they are for the community. which means that you are always free to just jump through the rooms, always participate with people. Okay, so be proactive. Also, I am currently creating more rooms, like rooms for you to share your wins, and a room for ask for feedback, and so feel always free to just share wins. And what do I mean by sharing a win? Let me give you one example. So a couple of months ago, like in January, I was thinking on leaving Deloitte, the company that I used to work for, because I really wanted to become a Web3 startup founder and a content creator and all of that. And I remember that back then I got 3 job offers. So I had the company that I wanted to build, the project that I wanted to be focused on, creating my own content, and plus 3 job offers. And first of all, these job offers, they were stupendously good. So that was a win. And I remember sharing that win and even asking for guidance and advice to my own community. So asking on Twitter, like, hey, friends, I am completely lost. I don't know if I should start building my own thing, if I should bet on myself, or instead, if I should join a new company with these job offers. And so these are the kind of things that in a community, they work very well. Okay, so feel always free to share your wins as long as you, during your journey naturally, and also to ask for feedback. Okay, so I'm here really to try to help you. Also, if you, for any instance, you can't attend some of the classes, don't feel like demotivated, okay? Like creating content is a long journey. It's not 1 or 2 or 3 weeks thing. It's a very long journey. A ton of people like, it can become overwhelming sometimes, okay? And so the best way for you to make sure that you keep doing your work and putting in the reps is to do not demotivate. Just reach out to me like, hey, Bernie, I couldn't attend last classes. How can I keep up with the class? Sometimes perhaps the best solution will be for me to tell you something like, hey, let's jump on a one-on-one call, or things like those. So feel always free to just reach me out, and do not feel demotivated, okay, in any way. Now, regarding Vinci, and I really want to just to give you some context about Vinci, because I know that on our Gumroad, for example, and anytime I've made a post, a Twitter or a tweet post over the last couple of days, I've always mentioned Vinci DAO, okay? And so Vinci is this Web3 project that both me and other people like John, who is my co-founder, and other people here are currently building, okay? And Vinci is like, what we intend to build is a community for people to learn to create content, build an audience, or as we call it, digital leverage, and leverage Web3. Okay, so Web3 is this new thing, a ton of questions, a ton of unknowns, but at the same time, we all can understand that Web3 will bring a ton of disruption to the creator economy. And so I believe that creating content helps us build an audience, and building an audience helps us to build digital leverage. And ultimately, I also believe that Web3 will allow the creator economy and creators like us to find new ways to monetize, to build better and stronger communities, and to actually create a better journey, okay? So this is what Vinci is about. Where Twitter audience building, this bootcamp, is just one of the bootcamps that we want to offer over the next couple of weeks and months, okay? So we are starting on Twitter, and by offering Twitter audience building, because that's where relies my experience in terms of building a bigger audience, but we want to scale into other formats and platforms, like how to launch a newsletter, how to launch a successful newsletter, how to launch a podcast, how to launch a YouTube channel. So how to become this full stack content creator, as we call it, okay? For that, we are building a platform to offer on-demand courses, but also to offer live bootcamps, just like this one, okay? And so that's why we are currently testing the idea and validating this offering through offering these live bootcamp, okay? But hey, we are just starting. So feel always free to give us feedback so we can improve. And even if you don't like the model, just let us know, okay? In terms of what is the Twitter Audience Building Bootcamp. So yes, this is a live cohort course focused on Twitter growth, okay? So here is all things Twitter. How to be a good Twitter nerd or geek, just like myself, how to create the best threads, how to make sure that we can scale our reach, how to engage properly, how to master Twitter by creating high quality content consistently. Okay, so this is what this course or this bootcamp is about, okay? And also, over the next couple of days and classes, I'll start bringing you some exercises. These exercises, they will be like a role play on DMs, okay, for you to try to understand how to write a good DM, because these can be life-changing. Like we see nowadays, companies being bought and sold, people being hired through DMs, okay? It happened with me, so it can happen with all of you. So yes, DMs are a very important asset when we talk about Twitter, but also exercises like write a thread and let's all give feedback about a certain thread, or how to come up with the right hook, or what is a good call to action, a good CTA. Okay, so all these small bits and things and small traits, they all matter for you to have a good journey and be able to build a good audience on Twitter. Okay, and also feel always free to be involved in our live feedback sessions and Q&A sessions with our guest speakers the moment we have them here. And here on classes, feel free to use the chat, make any question. Feel free also to just interrupt me. Okay, yes, I'm not a teacher. I'm someone just like you, trying to help you out. So yes, feel always free to do it. Regarding the after the bootcamp, and this is something really important, because some of you understood it, others don't. So after the bootcamp, you will get access, or you will keep having access to the content of this bootcamp, but also the content for future bootcamps, okay? You'll have access to a community of like-minded people that we hope and believe will be able to keep building. So keep bringing more people who want to build digital leverage through content creation to this community. And so you will have the opportunity to meet these people, give them feedback someday, and help them out also, and actually connect and engage with them. You will keep having access to future bootcamps at an affordable price, okay? So what you will see is that over time, our live bootcamps, they will start increasing in terms of pricing the moment we start having everything more structured, whatever, having a full-fledged team here, and these offering being much more strong. These bootcamps, they will start increasing price, but the goal is for the community to always have a very, very, very cheap price. So anytime you want to just jump into a new live bootcamp, like for example, you now have a 20K audience, 20K followers audience on Twitter and want to launch a newsletter, but have never gone through the moment of learning about how to launch a newsletter, then you can, for example, enroll to a live bootcamp on how to launch your newsletter and set it up for success, for example, okay? You will have access to the educational content that we are currently creating, both content that I am the person creating and other people, like other creators who I am currently interviewing, to learn from them, to come up with good on-demand courses and learning paths for everybody who wants to become a content creator. And also you will get access to future Q&As, like access to guest speakers, access to future feedback sessions. So what we are here trying to offer in terms of this product is for you to join our community and start getting involved over time and see value over time in being part of this community, okay? Ultimately, this community will be closed by an NFT, okay? So it will be token gated as many other communities. And so in a couple of months, we hope that by September or October, we will launch an NFT collection. And so everybody in the community by that moment will have access to our whitelist, okay? And the whitelist will grant you access to minting an NFT, which means that you will be able to buy an NFT for a very low price, and the NFT will grant lifetime membership access to a bunch of other things other than just the community, okay? So this is just what I really wanted to clarify about the after the bootcamp, okay? So now about the bootcamp. So the bootcamp today, I want to share with you some thoughts and perhaps to come up here with some, like to challenge you to think about this concept of digital leverage, okay? So this is the class of today. On Wednesday, we are going to talk about how to go from being a consumer to becoming a creator. And why? Because nowadays, 99% of the people around us, even us, we all are consumers. We all jump from one social media network to another social media platform to consume content, okay? From TV to newspapers, whatever, you name it. But we all are consumers, but only a few, perhaps even less than 1% of all these people in the world, they are the true creators, okay? And creators are people that create content consistently to share their ideas, to share their perspectives, or just to document their journeys, okay? So this is like, this will be the topic for our next class, how to go from consumer to creator. And then the moment we actually start understanding what does it mean to create digital leverage and how to go from consumer to creator, then second week, we then will start to create content and to talk about creating content on Twitter and the power of engagement, okay? On one side, we know that Twitter is a social media. So as it is media, it focuses on media. We know that we have to create content, so tweets and Twitter threads and Twitter spaces and all of that, if we want to be relevant in the platform. And that's why we are going to start with creating content. But at the same time, before media, we have social, which means that we have to build proper and authentic relationships on the platform if we want to stay alive, let's say. So we all have this opportunity of defining our niche through the content that we consistently create, and at the same time to attract like-minded people and to actually meet new people, and also to create real friends. At least that happened to me, and I believe it will happen to all of you also if you let it. And then on the third week, we will start talking about scaling your reach and creating content at scale, okay? So the first step is scaling your reach, and scaling your reach will be about, okay, so now I have 1,000 or 5K, 10K, 20K on Twitter. What is the next step? Okay, do I want to go like until the 100K, or should I just give a step into going into another platform? Should I launch a podcast? Should I launch a newsletter? Should I jump into Instagram or YouTube? Okay, and so this will be the moment that we will reflect on how and when to scale your reach. Okay, why is it important? Why you will have to do it someday during your journey, and how to do it properly. And about doing it properly, that's what leads us to creating content at scale. Because at this moment, the moment you start having more than one single platform, you start having different formats to deal with, different cadences, different audiences on different platforms. And all these platforms, they have their own formatting, their own cadence, their own tone, their own type of audience. Okay, like being on Instagram is very different than being on on YouTube or Twitter, which is also very different than, for example, being on LinkedIn. And if you want to be in all these platforms, you will need to adapt and actually like be thorough in terms, or being you'll have to be strategic in the way on how you think about scaling the ability of creating content. okay? And so this is our structure in terms of classes. And as you know, every Friday we will have a feedback session for you to make questions and whatever. Even though, feel always free, once again, just to email me, reach out to me on Discord, reach out to me on Twitter, and I'll address any question that you may have until each feedback session, okay? So now, and just a bit of context about me, okay? Who I am and why Twitter changed my life, which is completely true, okay? So I am Bernie, I am from Porto, Portugal. I am 29 years old, and over the last perhaps 5 years, yes, over the last 5 years, I've been working in the corporate world. So I've worked at PwC at first for 1 year, and then over the last 4 years at Deloitte as a consultant, a senior consultant in digital transformation, okay? And there, for years that I really wanted to have like more leverage, okay? What do I mean by having leverage? So leverage is the type of resources that we can use to increase the number of opportunities, okay? So if I am from Porto, a certain geography, and I work in a certain company in a certain country, I am reducing the number of opportunities that I can be exposed to, okay? And as I've always loved technology and I was very deep into tech, I knew that I really wanted to reach bigger people, higher ceilings, and I wanted to reach higher in life, okay? And so I've always looked at having an audience as a very good and a very strong gun, if you want to put it that way. What do I mean by that is, like, if you have an audience, you will have the opportunity to reach people, and people will start listening to you and what you have to say, because other people also find you a good person to be listened, okay? And that's exactly what I thought. And for years that I've tried to build an audience on Instagram, it didn't work. It wasn't my format. I then jumped into to YouTube, which for a couple of months, I've started to create a couple of videos. I've started to grow on YouTube, but it was very, very, very slow until the moment that I found Twitter. Okay, so I had my Twitter account since 2012, but I only had something like 54 followers by the last 13th September of the last year, okay? And that was when I decided that, okay, let's give it a try. I really want to build here an audience. I find Twitter a very good platform because I used to follow already a couple of like startup founders, investors, politicians, people very influenced with big influence. And so I jumped to Twitter, and in less than 5 months, Twitter completely changed my life, okay? And it happened for a couple of reasons. The first was because I started to create content very consistently. Every single day, I used to show up in the platform. I was there creating good relationships with people. And also because I started to create content about some topics that I cared about. Like, for example, the What the Fuck is Web3 series is a series of threads where I started to deconstruct a ton of topics about Web3. Okay, like what is blockchain? What are smart contracts? What is Ethereum? And I've made a couple of them. And I had a couple of them going viral because I think it was a good topic. They were well written and all of that. So there are a ton of learnings that I will share with you on how to come up with threads that completely blow up, okay? And also, if you want, you can just jump into my Twitter account and you will find this thread that I wrote about how Twitter changed my life, okay? Because over the last couple of months, so I was working at Deloitte until the 31st of January, the moment that I left Deloitte after 40 years almost. And I had job offers who I got just because I grew an audience. I had made money online just because I had an audience. And I was starting to become a Web3 founder because I had an audience. All of that So having an audience doesn't prove that you are good or bad, but at least it gives you more leverage. You have more people to share your ideas with. You can start debating if you should build a tool or a product even before you start coding and all of that. So it's a very important topic. And that's exactly why I am bringing this topic today. But first of all, is that everything okay with you all? I can see you because I'm here sharing my screen, but is everything going well? Any questions so far? Okay. Okay, so let's keep moving. Michael, Shri?
Yeah, we are good. We are good, Vince.
Okay, great. So, and now let me just explain you why creating content is so important. Okay, so I believe that you know this guy, this guy, one of the fathers of the internet that we have nowadays. So Bill Gates, in 1996, he wrote a huge essay that he shared among Microsoft's employees, saying that content is king. And since then, that everybody talks about content being king. But the good thing, and why is content king, is what a ton of people doesn't understand. Okay, so yes, it is true that content is about creativity. Yes, it is true that content is about storytelling, is about sharing ideas, debating topics. It's a very fascinating thing. But most importantly, in terms of a business model, is that content allows everybody to create one certain piece and replicate that piece numbers of times. Okay, like instead of clothing that you have different models and you have to print a ton of them and have a certain cost per each print or per each size that you create, when you create content, like right now, I've launched my YouTube channel, and just by creating one new video and posting it on YouTube, I was able to reach almost 400 people just with one single video. And that happens also with Twitter. Okay, on Twitter, you can write a Twitter thread or a tweet and reach thousands of people or even millions. Okay, so that's why content is king. Okay, and that's why over the last 25 years, 30 years of internet, that content once and once and once again is always how a ton of people create huge empires. Okay, and this is an example of a company. So future is the media side, if you want to, of A16Z. Okay, and A16Z or Andreessen Horowitz, they are nowadays perhaps the best investor venture capital firm out there. Okay, or we can debate this, but whatever. A16Z, they are huge. They have invested in huge startups, huge companies who are actually molding the world where we live. And how have they done that? Most of their journey was by investing in good companies. But the question is, how have they been able to invest in those companies? And they were able to invest in those companies by creating a ton of content, and by creating that content that led them to be perceived as people who knew more about different topics, which what makes that all these startups and all these startup founders see them as thought leaders. Okay, and that's one of the cool things that creating content also allows us, is for us to position ourselves in the niche or the vertical that we want to be perceived as or known as a thought leader. Okay, here we have another example. So on one side, we have a very corporate company like a venture firm, a venture fund, using content to scale their reach. While their reach, their business model is investing in startups. Okay, that's their model, and that's how they use media, how they use content at scale. Here we have another example. So Morning Brew is a newsletter that perhaps most of you have subscribed already. They are one of the best newsletters out there, and perhaps one of the first big media companies out of a newsletter. But the cool thing about Morning Brew is that they were just a couple of tweets and then an email that two friends during the university started to share with a couple of friends. Okay, so they started to curate content about certain topics. Initially, it was about financial markets and financial companies and all of that. And then they started to curate this content and to write a good email, and then to share that email. And suddenly that email grew into a newsletter. And nowadays, Morning Brew is a huge thing, a huge media company making millions a year. Okay. And once again, this is why content is king, because you have the work once and you can create content that can be replicated over and over and over again under different formats, under different fixes or editings and all of that. Okay. So just to sum up, content allows us to build digital leverage, okay? And once again, as I've mentioned already, leverage means when we talk about leverage, we are talking about tools and resources that magnify our efforts, okay? And over the last couple of centuries, let's say, the society has evolved into that. At first, we had labor. Nowadays, we still have labor. So what does it mean? It means that we need someone to work for us to be able to do other things that now we can outsource to them, okay? The second one is capital. So capital is this cool thing that when you have capital, you can buy your access into things that create you leverage, or you can buy new tools, you can buy new factories, you can pay for labor, okay? But recently, over the last couple of decades, perhaps the last 30 years, and since the social media age, what we see is that nowadays you can either create content or to code. On one side, the coding side. If you know how to code, you already understand these. If you code one time, that means that most of the times your code will be replicated or can be replicated multiple times. That's why software companies make so much money with so few people. They have huge reach because they build a ton of leverage. The other one, for more mortals like me, who I don't know how to code nowadays, is media. And so media as content, it allows us to create these pieces of content, share across multiple platforms under different formats, from radio to TV, from social media to other formats and platforms, and to always share one certain message or something that we really want to share with people. And once again, it can become infinite. Yeah, it can have an infinite impact in terms of how many people it can reach and how many times it can be replicable, okay? And once again, here on our case on Twitter, yes, Twitter allows us to build this digital leverage, okay? And why? Because by creating content and being consistent on creating content, you'll start attracting like-minded people, people who start to know your personality, okay? And when it comes to your personality, that's the most unique thing that you have, and nobody in the world can copy you. Like, after I started to create my What the Fuck is Web3 series, I started to see a ton of people to use the what the fuck is in other topics, like what the fuck is startups, what the fuck is DeFi, etc., and started to deconstruct different topics under the what the fuck is something. But the cool thing is that people who followed me, they knew already that the what the fuck is Web3 was a thing of mine. And what they loved was the way on how I was writing those threads. And so that's much more about my personality, which means it is completely impossible to copy, okay? And the cool thing is that when you have your own personality, which is a mix of the experiences of life that you have and the person that you are, that leads to you sharing things that only you can share. And those things that you share, they are your own expertise. And the cool thing is that when you start creating content, you attract like-minded people, you build an audience by sharing your personality and your expertise. And now you can start having a bunch of people who may be willing to pay for something that you may create, a product, a course, a book, a video, whatever. But suddenly you have a ton of people who know you, who trust in you, and are willing perhaps to pay for something that you create with value. Okay. And suddenly you can build a company without thinking about building a company. Okay. This is the cool part of creating digital leverage. And this is the cool part about using content to build this digital leverage. Now, I want to give you 2 or 3 more examples on people who are currently using this digital leverage to build huge businesses and even their own lifestyle, okay? And how important it is and how Twitter is at the center of it all, okay? So the first one is David Perel. So David Perel is the typical example of a person who during high school and even college, during high school and all of that, he was never a great student, okay? But the thing that he was passionate about was about learning about new things. And so a couple of years ago, he started to write his own personal blog, and some topics like good essays on topics that he was fascinated about or things that he was curious about, and sharing some of those thoughts also on Twitter. The cool thing was that he started to attract like-minded people, and then he started to grow an audience. And as you can see, so David Perel shared a couple of months ago how important it is Twitter and creating content on his business model. And as you can see, he has Twitter as a lead generator of people to get more email subscribers. And after he has email subscribers, he then talks about the book, or he sells them courses, or he can lead these people to enroll into his personal community, or he can find new deals to angel invest. After he launches things on Twitter and he uses the email subscribers, he has now ideas that he can use to create new videos on YouTube or new guests that he can invite to his podcasts. And all of these helps him write new essays, okay? So this is how having these content creation pipeline and production system, this factory of content creation can help you both on getting a huge audience, as it is the case for David Perel, who has been doing this for years now, but at the same time, to actually build your own life, okay? To have 100% control on what happens in your life and be able to have the reach to find people willing to pay for something that you create valuable for them, and to build a business on top of that that pays your bills, at least that. Okay, so we are not talking about David Perel becoming a billionaire here, but we are talking about him being able, for example, nowadays, to offer his course, the Rite of Passage course. This is a $6,000 course that he offers, I think twice or 3 times a year, to a couple of people from his subscribers list and his followers on Twitter, people that watches his YouTube videos or hears his podcasts, whatever. Okay, so this is how incredible it is to build digital leverage, to build an audience, and to start creating content on Twitter. Okay. And another example that I really want to share with you, and this is today the last example, and to sum up this conversation about building digital leverage, and how to think about creating content and why it is important. So these are 2 other examples. Okay, so Nicholas Cole, he has been a ghostwriter, a digital writer, as he calls himself, for a couple of years. And for years that he has been writing both for Medium, the Medium blog platform, as for example on Quora, whatever. So a bunch of different platforms. And he has also been writing for a couple of people as their ghostwriter. Okay. On our right, we have here Dickie Bush. Dickie Bush was a trader on BlackRock. So BlackRock was a corporate company, is a corporate company, one of the biggest investment companies in the world, where Dickie Bush used to work. Okay. And what both of them started to do was they started to create content on Twitter about writing, how to write better, how important it is to write, how being able to write will help you in life, whatever. So all things about writing, they are the go-to to learn about writing. These two and David Perel also naturally. But what they started to do after a couple of months on Twitter was that they started having an audience. Suddenly, Nicholas Cole had already something like 10K. Dickie Bush had already something like 30 to 40K followers. And so they started to create this thing that they call Sheep 3430. Okay. And this was their first initial bootcamp, a live bootcamp also, where they teach you all things about writing in 30 days. Okay, so you enroll, you go through the course, you have a bunch of different classes on all things about writing, whatever you want to write for your blog, or if you want to write a book, or if you want to start writing Twitter threads, or whatever. If you want to write, if you understand how important it is to write better, they have made this course for you. And this is how important, once again, having an audience and starting on Twitter has and can have in your life. Nowadays, they both are 100% focused on scaling Sheep 3430 to reach new people, to reach more people, and to help these people to build also audiences and to start to be writers, digital writers. Okay, so this is just how I wanted to sum up this lesson today on digital leverage and digital and building an audience, and why Twitter is a great place for you to start, because you can get feedback much faster, you can interact with people, you can build good relationships and authentic relationships. And I hope I have been able to show you how important it is to build an audience, for you to build digital leverage, and how creating content can help you get more opportunities in life. Yes, so friends, today this was the first class. And yes, let's now open for a Q&A. And the class today, it has 1 hour and a half, because I really wanted now to have here a Q&A with you all, and also to meet you. Okay, so I'll stop sharing. I don't know if anyone wants me to go back into any particular slide or something like that.
Yeah, could you please talk about the last slide? Bonnie, I think I lost you for a few seconds.
The slide about Sheep 30 and Dickie Bush and Nicholas Cole?
Right, Chip 13, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I was talking about both Nicholas Cole and Dickie Bush journeys, okay,
Hello?
on how they... Hello, can you hear me? Shri,
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Sorry, I was asking for the next slide.
This one.
Yeah, this one.
Okay.
Sorry, I lost. Yeah.
Yeah, so about the Sheep 30, what I was giving, so this is just an example for you to see how start to create content on how to start creating content on Twitter and building an audience, building this digital leverage can actually take you into a life-changing journey. Okay, so I was giving the examples of Nicholas Cole and Dickie Bush, who are two people who nowadays they are 100% focused on helping people to become better writers. Okay, and nowadays they have their course. This is Ship 30 is a program that they run every 2 or 3 months, I guess. It costs something like $500 or $600, and yes, they have helped already a ton of people on becoming better digital writers. And all of that was just, it was only possible because they both created big audiences on Twitter, which is from where most of their leads comes into the Ship 30 course. Okay, so they write threads on how to write better, they attract the right people, and then these people, they go into their profiles, they see about Ship 30 for 30, and then they click and they come into this page and they buy their course. Okay, so this is how important it is to build an audience, and how Twitter can help you on building that audience and building this digital leverage, and how Nicholas Cole and Dickie Bush were able to create a huge business here and to change their lives also.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Amen. Okay, so back to you all. Let me know, what do you think about this concept of digital leverage? Does it make any sense? Does it make sense for you why creating content is important? Why you should start to create content? Yes, okay. Sorry, I was stopped to sharing my screen. Yeah, so let me know what do you think about this concept, about digital leverage, creating content. Share with me some of the thoughts that you may have about what I was sharing. Yes, so.
I can go first.
I can go.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
There. Yeah.
So
okay. Nice to meet you anyway. I think this new content strategy is the new resume. It's the new CV for anyone. I think when we used to have CVs and describe our jobs our best, and now we judge people by the type of content that they ship and the quality of content that they ship, because then you get a thorough idea of what they have in their guts, mind, whatever. And so yeah, we all do that at some point for our own careers, whatever the type of revenue. Some people will have this type of revenue, this other type of revenue, whatever. But for the visibility of our personality and skills, we just need this. It's just something we can't avoid any longer.
Yeah, so and by the way, Sonia, let me just ask you, do you already create content in any other platform, like a personal blog or something like that? Or is Twitter the first platform?
I started to do that because I used to be in B2B.
Okay.
And B2B was not the type of place where you sort of needed to do that. The whole marketing thing was very much about contacting people who would just buy your stuff in companies. And so I was always tempted to do that, but felt like there was no need or no bandwidth. So I started a newsletter a month ago, and
Great.
started tweeting a few threads here and there, but for bandwidth reason, again, I just stopped for the past week. But I already started. I just feel like it's not efficient enough and not productive enough. So I feel like I need to get things on rails.
Great to hear. Okay, and congrats on your newsletter. How is it working, by the way? How is it going?
Oh, I have like 3 subscribers.
Okay, so now you have here at least 14 in the call. So taking you out, you may have more subscribers.
No, but I feel like one of the questions I will have, maybe not for that type of session, but since this is the new resume, it means that most of us have a job aside of this. And sometimes this personal strategy serves our job purposes. So for example, I'm a startup founder. Mm-hmm. And I need this for my startup
distribution channel. Yeah.
And I need to distribute content this way. People in my team need to do that. And so in terms of positioning and personal profile, but in terms also of how I should organize the whole content process, my question is not so much whether I should get into that, but how to optimize this in order to sort of reach my personal goal as much as my business goal.
Yes,
or my
yes,
career
yes.
goal. You know, if I was an executive and I was just looking for the next job, I would be, you know, working somewhere, and I would be willing to just get the next job. And I can't just produce content 24 hours a day. So, well, I'm very much looking forward for whatever you have to say in the coming sessions on, you know,
Yes.
optimizing time, organizing, depending on our personal goal.
There is an entire session just about that, which is like how to build your own content factory. Okay. And just to give you an idea, not that I am an expert, okay, so but this is exactly what I am currently doing. So I am currently going through the moment of my life where I am building a startup, and at the same time I am building an entire team of 2 to 3 people to scale my content into YouTube, for example, which I launched the last week. And I have my own newsletter, so I have that exactly the same thing or thought as you.
Okay, cool. So we can
so
share.
yes,
Super
yes,
nice. Thank you very much.
Albert.
Yeah, I was. Next time I'm gonna put on my camera, man. I have a monitor, so putting a camera, it's kind of. I have to plug stuff and stuff. I'll put it on next time. So, but yeah, I think.
Don't worry.
I think digital leverage. This is the. I mean, it's not just the future, but this is what is happening today. So if you have something and you share it with people, you kind of create a tribe of people that you can lead into anything that you want. But I think the most important thing is consistency. I've tried a few things, you know, newsletter. I get like 100 subscriber. I write content for 3 weeks, and then after that, you know, I just become lazy because there's other important things. Not that that's not important, but there's other stuff to do. So I know what digital leverage is. I know what the capability are there. It's just that it is hard to be consistent in doing stuff like that. There's also psychology and emotions involved as well, you know. But the tool, like Twitter, is built around likes and comments. So you post something, you don't get a comment, you get discouraged, and stuff like that. But it's really important, as Sonia was saying. That's kind of what a profile is. It's like, who are you in that space of social interaction on Twitter or any other platform? So it's really important.
Yeah. Yes, and yes, I think we all at least can have exactly the same opinion that nowadays having something online. Okay, sorry. Hey, Bernice. Okay. So I think that nowadays we all can quickly understand on how having an audience and creating content, how important it is. But Albert, I really want to deep dive into your consistent problem with consistency. Not that I want to jump into consistency now, because once again, we will start talking about building consistency over the next couple of days. But just to know and understand, how have you ever done or created content? What was your system, just for me to try to understand that?
So by system, you mean like, how do I organize, or
yes yes so what was your system, if you have or have ever had any?
Yeah, my system is, I'll do some research, in the morning, because I have the job to do as well. So I do research in the morning, and then during the day I also do research, and then in the evening I just curate some stuff and write about it, and then post. I can consistently do that for a month, and then after that, the drive just dies. And by the way, I took the ship 30 for 30. I did it consistently for 30 days. I think I had like maybe 40 something Twitter followers. I went up to 280 something. So that was something.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the course, the drive just went. I couldn't continue after the course. So it's stuff like that. You run into a cycle of taking courses like what I'm doing right now. I'm probably gonna be really good for the next 3 weeks with you, and then after that, I drop the mic. So it's yeah.
Okay. And by the way, let me just give you an yes. Ship 30 is a great course, but is a great course for people who are already used to create content. Okay, if you are just starting, like I want to build an audience and I don't know where to start, but I also know that I have to become a better writer, I wouldn't suggest you to join Ship 30, but because like for someone who is just starting, it will become overwhelming, like having to write for 30 days, you know.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I went through the Ship 32, but the thing is, okay, I'll come back to Ship 30 the moment I have already the mechanisms in place for me to know how to do the work, okay? Which is completely different than Dicky's and Nicholas' pitch. So I would suggest to anyone who may want to enroll into the Ship 30 someday to at least give yourself a couple of weeks or even months of writing and trying to build an audience and understanding the platforms and all of that before you jump into Ship 30. Because Ship 30, yes, it is very into how to write better, but it is also for 30 days. So if you lack the foundational or the fundamentals, what will happen is that the house will start crumble. That's all. But yes, so yes, we will talk also more about consistency over the next couple of days, Albert. So I hope at least I can help you with some of these systems that I'm mentioning. Okay. Yes. So I don't know if anyone else has any other question.
Hey, Albert, can I ask? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. All right. So I second Albert as well, right? So consistency has been a problem for me as well. Along with consistency, coming up with an idea, right? So on a daily basis, how well we be educated, no matter how much ever we read, how much ever I read, coming up with an idea or coming up with the content has been very challenging, right? So I'm not sure. I've been doing a research on is it a set framework for us to come up with a idea how to write a hook, or like I've been writing for a while now because of this disheartening of like 0 likes or whatever, of a lesser engagement. I just gave up recently. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. That's I can understand that. But let me tell you, okay, Shri, that's a topic for another type of session, because what you are telling me is that you have to build the long-term mindset that will allow you to fall behind many times and in the short term, because like the long term is a very good journey, but in the long term you are always falling and having to put yourself up again. Okay. That's my daily normal. Like my daily normal is I don't want to create, let's skip today. No, I have to create, let's hit publish. Okay. And I can guarantee you that even huge people that I've met already, people with 100, 200, 500 followers, they go exactly through the same mindset. Okay. So they have those same battles, because in the end of the day, we all love to do other stuff. Because yes, like even yes, that's the same. Like musicians, they have to create music, but they don't love to create music every single day, every single minute. you know. And so that's exactly the same kind of consistency that you have to build in, is to have some long-term vision of the Shri of the future that you want to become, and to work towards that Shri, and not necessarily the one that you are nowadays, you know. At least that's how I motivate myself. So I hope it can help you in that way. Okay, so anyone else? If not, I can give you just a quick glimpse into the next call.
Hey,
Yes.
I
just wanted to share.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, the reason I found about this bootcamp and you, Bernie, is because of something you wrote on Notion. It was like how to grow your Twitter audience from like 0 to 10, 10 to 100, or yeah. And so I started posting on Twitter every day after reading that post. And it's been like slow, and I feel like the consistency part, like I understand what everyone's saying here. It's like it's not fun or easy. Even yesterday I was like, I just want to do something fun and not think about what to post on Twitter. But like a little background on me. I wrote a book during the pandemic, and so actually writing the book was easy compared to getting people to read it. And I found that out like as soon as I hit like publish on Amazon, then the real journey began, which is like the long term, like how do I get people to pay attention to this? And so I realized it came back to like creating more content. It wasn't like, oh, you write the book and then you're done. It's like, no, now you have to turn it into like every short form content so people can like get a sense of what you're putting out into the world. And so I feel like that's where the digital leverage comes in. Like that's what you're talking about, Bernie, is that you need to have like the interest from an audience, like a community that powers the thing that you're trying to put out into the world. So that's where I think like the power of like even what you're starting here with the bootcamp is valuable, is that we can like leverage each other to find like accountability and consistency. And I think as creators, that's important, because doing this alone sucks.
Yes,
It's
yes,
not
it does. Yes, it does. At least sharing. And by the way, just sharing from my own journey. So I had 54 followers, and it took me almost 1 month, or more than 1 month, just to get to 1,000. Okay, but the moment I got to 1,000, it took me like 3 weeks to hit 5K, and suddenly just 2 weeks to hit like 10K, and suddenly only 1 week to reach 20K. Okay, and then 25, and now almost 30. So the thing is, when you start creating content and being consistent and accountable with yourself, you'll start noticing that things will come up in place. Okay, but yes, what you've mentioned is exactly part of the reason on why I started to create an audience or to create content, was also because for years there was this idea of you build it and they will come. And nowadays we live in such a noisy world that you have to first find signal over noise, and second, you have to dig very deep to find like-minded people, and sometimes your potential customers. So that's why building an audience is like the first step into customer development if you are a founder, or even if you are a bookseller, a book writer in your case. You have to find the person to whom you are selling your book. And so starting to create content earlier, even before you have a book, is the best way to find those people, attract them, and then to sell them the book, you know. And yes, let's also dig into that too.
Can I add a little thing? Sorry.
Yes, Sarah, obviously, go ahead.
Okay, we talk a lot about consistency and strategy and all these things, but I do content creation for my clients, except on Twitter. So that's why I'm here. But two things we never talk about it and makes the whole difference on consistency is having the process. Because having a flow, having a workflow, that's really important to always do the same things in a way that works with us. It's not just about talking what we like. It's not talking about specific things, having an audience. For consistency, is process.
Yeah,
And we
that's
talk a
exactly
lot
the type
about,
of systems that I was telling a couple of minutes ago. I was saying to Sonia that in a couple of days, we will talk about creating your own systems. And that's exactly like, hey, let's build a Notion document where you will have ideas, you will have a Kanban board, you'll have like a couple of templates for you to start writing a couple of things, always the same way for you to get into some consistent flywheel. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. When we found our flow, I like this term flow, it makes a whole difference. Now I can create for a month for one of my clients because I have this flow, these templates, everything in place. Whether when I didn't have it's just like one a day if it was a good day. So that makes another difference. And the other thing, we talk a lot about niches. Yes, niches are important, but if we don't express ourselves and we don't talk about these things the way we want, without the pressure of the market, we will not succeed. That's simple, because we get bored. We don't want to talk about it. So it must be always a niche, but with a little dust of us. That's the only way to succeed.
Yeah, that's where personality gets in. As I was mentioning, like building digital leverage means scaling yourself. So when it is scaling, yes, you have scale, you build some reach yourself. It's not anyone else, it's you. And you are just putting yourself out there into more eyeballs. And so if you can attract one eyeball, then you know already how to attract 2 eyeballs or 100 eyeballs or 1,000. You just have to repeat what you have been doing over and over again. So yes. And yes, and I find Twitter a very, very, very good platform to scaling myself. It was the best one that worked for me. And I hope that I can teach you all what I've done for you to start scaling yourselves too. So thank you very much. It's awesome to have here someone who knows much more about content creation than anyone else, because I'll try to find some advices too. From
if
you.
we talk Instagram, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm here to learn Twitter. So.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So, friends, anyone else wants to ask or say anything?
Do you want to talk briefly about your own process, Bernie? I know you might talk about it in the future class, but just curious.
Okay. So my own process. So nowadays, Farouk, my own process is the following. I try to identify a couple of ideas about the certain topic that I want to write about. Okay. So for example, let me share with you how I wrote almost 40 threads in 40 days under the What the Fuck is Web3 series. Okay. So what I've done back then was I've compiled in a Notion document a column which was just about ideas. Okay. And I started to write there a bunch of ideas about Web3, ideas that I was trying to answer for people who knew nothing and were non-tech. Okay. So this was my persona. Okay. Was someone almost my age, like from 25 to 40, 45 years old, who may want to learn about Web3, who knows nothing and is not a tech person. Okay. So this was my persona. And I started to just put there as much as ideas as I had. And then after I started to write these ideas, I started to select a few of them that I knew could become more trendy. Okay. Like deconstructing what is blockchain is like a higher probability of becoming a viral thread than, for example, explaining what is a smart contract. Okay, or what is a proof of stake or proof of work, which are very technical things, and most people don't want to know, okay, or don't care about those. Even though I wrote about all of those, and so I selected a few ideas that I had, and after that, I started to write a couple of hooks, okay, When I write about the hook, I always try to figure out the emotional status that I want to bring the person into. Okay, so am I trying to shock you? Am I trying to bring you into a new place, a new idea? Am I deconstructing something that you believed before, but nowadays you don't? Whatever. Okay, so this is more or less my process. And so I write the hook. After writing the hook, I always start by writing my CTA, my call to action. How do I want to end this thread? Where do I want to lead people? Is it to subscribe my newsletter? Is it to follow me? Is it to jump into someone's website? Is it for them to share something? Whatever. Okay, so I have now the hook. I have now the CTA, and now I start structuring the middle, the body. The first step that I do is always to write an outline, right? I start writing in bullet points. I want to tell you to go from here to there, to do this, to do that, and that's it. Okay. And after I have the bullet points, I start writing everything. And if you start reading a couple of my threads, you will see that the formatting is almost always the same. Okay. Almost every single time I have one single idea per tweet, or I have an arrow pointing down, some things like those, and you will see almost always the same structure in terms of how I lay down my thoughts, how I write my threads. That's it.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay. Yes. So any other question? So we have here yet 30 more minutes. If not, we can. Okay.
Do you have like homework assignments for us or like things that we should be doing between sessions?
Not today. Not today. Today, I have nothing. I just want to welcome you all, to take care of Discord, to understand if everybody is already in Discord or not, to share with you these concepts of digital average, how creating content is so important. Starting Wednesday, yes, I'll have always homework for all of you, because the goal is to always have a good feedback session every single Friday. Okay, so the feedback sessions, they will be like those groups, like the alcoholic groups where everybody shares something. So it will be like that. Yes, and I will always try to have you with accountability partners and small groups of people for you to also share with them and get new perspectives into what you have been doing. Okay, so yes, but I'll start sending you a couple of emails, or I'll keep sending you a couple of emails with all the next steps and how things will start to work in that way. Okay.
How many people are in the class? Like, is this the, is like, it was like 13, 12 people on the Zoom call? Were there more people that enrolled?
Yes, the class, we are 14. So today we have been here all, okay. The first class, we just wanted 15 people. So we have 14, which is very good. The goal is to actually to build a very tight group and make sure that we can meet each other and all of that. Okay. Yeah. So regarding our next class, so our next class will be about going from consumer to creator. Okay. And so it will be a very important class in terms both of mindset and in terms of tactical things that I will start sharing. Okay. So it will be the first class that we will open Twitter. I'll go through a couple of profiles to show you how to, for you to start building your own Twitter. What are some important factors to consider when you start thinking about your Twitter? People you should follow, people you shouldn't follow, how to treat your following, and how to make sure that you don't follow the wrong people and all of that. So take care of your attention, all those concepts. Okay, so that's all about for our next class. It will be much more dense than the class of today, because this one was much more a welcome class, and going forward they will be much more tactical, hands-on, and all of that. Okay. Okay, so friends, I don't know if you have any question. If not, I think we can end our call for here today. See you on Wednesday. Between today and tomorrow, you will get an email from me with next steps and a couple of details. And naturally, feel always free to DM me on Twitter, on Discord, whatever. Okay, whatever you see me, you can send me a message. Okay, that's it, as easy as possible. You have my email, so just bombard me with questions if you have any. Okay, Farouk.
Well, I was just about to ask about the Discord channel for this class. I assume you'll set it up tomorrow, but today, tomorrow.
Yeah, so the Discord server, you are already on the Discord server, right? Yes,
Yeah,
I saw you are.
I meant the channel. You said a separate channel for this class.
Exactly. So I have here already all your Discord usernames. And what will happen is that I'll give you all a certain role. Okay, a certain role is like I will classify your profiles as being students from the first batch, and I will call for you on a private room. Okay, and that private room will become our private room. Okay. And if we need, we can always create more private rooms. Okay. The goal here is for you to feel always free to jump into the community, because the community has already much more people than just us, and they are all there for content creation, and so they are more than willing to discuss other things. But the community is the community for Vinci. Okay, it's Vinci's community. It's not just the Twitter audience building live bootcamp community. Okay, and so we are now creating these different rooms, private rooms, for our own community of the Twitter audience building bootcamp. Okay,
got it.
Great. So, okay, I think that's all for today. I'll stop recording.